This is the Leadenhall building, better known as the Cheese Grater, the tallest office tower ever to be built in Britain. Before it opens, I've been granted an exclusive tour by the lead architect on the project, Graham Stirk. What I want to know is how it compares to Lloyd's of London, which sits just over the road. Lloyd's was designed by the same firm 30 years ago. What do the two buildings tell us about the journey British architecture has been on since the 1980s? And what do they reveal about our appetite now for taking creative risks? Are you responsible for any particular bits of it?
I worked on services.
Services?
Yeah.
Graham Stirk started his career in 1983 as a junior designer under Richard Rogers on perhaps the most controversial piece of modern architecture ever to be built in Britain. Lloyd's of London was celebrated by some as a work of genius, but derided by others for looking like a monstrous car park.
There was kind of a lot of vying notions of where architecture could go. It wasn't as homogenised. It tends to be a lot more homogenised now. But the notion of something which expresses the material that it's made of is actually rare and is becoming rarer. Some of those reactions in terms of we really like Lloyd's but we don't want one of those. We had very little work for a while.
15 years after Lloyd's opened, Stirk started designing the Leadenhall building. British architecture had become smoother, more polite, and had turned away from expressing its inner workings. The Leadenhall's 15,000-ton steel frame is encased in a sleek glass skin and rises 225 metres into the sky. It is, says Stirk, an evolution from the Lloyd's DNA.
So should we go to 45?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
It's
just extraordinary.
That is extraordinary.
It is really a bloody movie.
The views are just amazing.
So is this the height? This is the tallest office building in Britain. So this must be
This
one of
is
the...
actually tallest office space in the city. I mean, obviously the Shard is taller. This is a special floor, this, because this is a double height. And the principle of this is that these big things here are using brute strength to tie down this big perimeter diagrid. They're basically restraining it because it expands and contracts. So the movements in this are extraordinary, really. So these are the toilets that are basically inserted into the non-active lift lobbies. So you'll see the colours of these from outside. You will see moving lifts coming across this surface, so there's a kind of certain dynamism. But they're probably the most beautifully, naturally daylit toilets, because normally they're always buried in the car. And so suddenly you've got these fantastic lantern-like spaces. All the steelwork is all working immensely hard. None of it is covered or decorative.
And it really has a sense of tension, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, look at the size of it. You hit this stuff. And this is one of the thin ones, isn't it? The other ones you hit and your knuckles just come off.
Views this good would have been unthinkable when Lloyd's was built. For years, nothing could be taller than the 42-storey NatWest Tower. But since the millennium, pressure has grown to intensify the use of expensive land in the city, and skyscrapers have risen higher and higher.
I think there's nothing more depressing than going somewhere that you remembered as being very beautiful, especially in green belt terms. I think it's best to intensify and create humane environments by intensifying land that's already been spoiled. The problem would be if you got tall buildings that gave nothing at the ground level, or had nothing of qualities that would allow people to take them to their hearts. I think that would be something, would be a world I wouldn't really want to be in, if I was honest.
London has a new landmark in the Cheese Grater. It is bold and distinctive, yet compared to the bespoke industrial craftsmanship of Lloyd's, with its visionary facades, Leadenhall cannot quite escape the creeping homogeneity of modern design, which produces buildings that are comfortable and efficient, but perhaps lack a daring edge. The first venue to be built for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar is under construction. 8 years from now, the best football teams in the world will play in this stunning arena.